I would like to take response to a video. The Bible witnesses that Muhammad was a prophet. The leaps of logic are more than trying to seize what is not there. It is obvious that there is little historicity, linguicity, or translation knowledge to back the video's claim. This retort is done with kindness and with the utmost respect to the Prophet Muhammad, for which the video is focused.
Allow me to cite some areas of correction. 1. The video loosely is referring to the English translation, rather than having some focus on the original Greek for the New Testament and Aramaic for the Old Testament, which is the tongue that Moses spoke and the prophets of the Old Testament. As everyone knows, both Arabic and Hebrew are classified as Semitic languages. Both are written and read as the eye naturally scans from right to left. The religions, respectively, are known as Abrahamic religions. Number 2. In the video, there was free license in taking phrases out of context. And manipulating them to support the argument of the video. Without doing thus, the video would have no biblical support whatsoever. Not only did the video use both the New Testament references out of context from the chapters, the video also left out important clarification of words, which pattern is nothing more than deception. Number 3. The reference in John chapter 1, verse 19, makes the erroneous assumption that the Jews sent the priests and Levites unto him, meaning Jesus, as the video declares firmly to segue to the supposed conclusion of the video's title. The video only refers to verse 19, which would be fine if the interpretation was not altered 180 degrees. One needs to read the entire chapter to understand that the chapter is referring to John the Baptist and not Jesus Christ. The video has purposefully misled the viewer. When the priests and Levites asked, "Who art thou?" they were interrogating John the Baptist and not Jesus Christ. They were asking John the Baptist, and he answered correctly when he denied being the Messiah and said, "I am not the Christ." Understand, John the Baptist was gaining popularity and was performing the mikvah not for cleansing, but for the remission of sins, which was a new concept. Therefore, they also asked John, "Art thou Elias?" which, according to Malachi in the Old Testament, in the last days before the Messiah would come, Elias would return and turn the hearts of the children to the fathers and the hearts of the fathers to the children, lest the world would lay in waste. The video completely ignored verse 6, which translated from the Greek, the verse simply says, "A man God sends is John." If the video had included verse 7, it would have specified who this John was. Quote, "He came for a witness of the light, that all men through the light might believe that the light," refers to verse 1, is speaking of Jesus Christ, God in the beginning, in the Greek logos. This word was God of the Old Testament, whom the Israelites, not just the Jews, worship. Verse 8 states, "He was not that light," referring to the Baptist. "He was sent to bear witness of that light," speaking of Christ. There is no pleasure in slicing apart another's video. However, I disdain any Christian, Jew, or Muslim declaring statements and trying to support their claims by false pretense. Number 4.
I've already mentioned that using the English translation of the Old and New Testaments without a knowledge of the Greek and the Aramaic is compared to reading the Quran in the English translation, which any devout Muslim would consider not reading the Quran. Reading the Quran would be reading it in the original tongue, and that would be reading the Quran. The author of the videos takes liberty in not only the Old and New Testament and taking them out of context, but he also takes the Holy Quran out of context. And I cannot subscribe to any of his videos because of this modus operandi.
Number 5. When Jesus spoke to his apostles warning of false prophets, the video not alluded to but outright again twisted the scriptures by stating Christ did not say no other prophet would not come after him. This type of reasoning is absurd. It is absurd to assume that the New Testament is a complete tape recording of all Christ's comments and conversations. But again, the scriptures were altered to fit the video's means. In Mark 13:22, Christ warns his apostles, quote, "For false Christs and false prophets shall arise, and shall shew great signs and wonders to seduce, if it were possible, even the elect." The video purposefully left out false Christs and only referred to false prophets. Jesus states many times in the New Testament that he is a Christ. The video only cited the word prophets to build a case that Jesus was only a prophet and was speaking of another prophet to come, and left out the crucial element of the Messiah. Now a translation lesson.
Christ in the Greek, Christos, means the anointed one. It is equivalent to Messiah or the Messiah in the Hebrew or the Aramaic, which is the language that Moses and the prophets in the Old Testament spoke. In 1536 to 1541, Suleiman the Great rebuilt the walls around the city of Jerusalem and sealed off the eastern gate. It is the only gate, and these walls still exist today. It is the only gate that is sealed around the walls in the city of Jerusalem. There are also graves that were put in front of the eastern gate, or which is called the Golden Gate, to prevent or to discourage the Messiah from returning.
So how is Jesus' warning to his apostles about false Christs and false prophets to be root of the prophet which is to come? The video is not logical. Number 6. The video also made reference from the Old Testament, chapter 21 of Isaiah. First, Isaiah was born 775 years before the Common Era and died 9 years before the decimation of the Babylonian Empire and the Arabian Empire in 689 BC by the Assyrians. The Assyrians were the first to harden iron. Therefore, their weaponry was no match for the opposing armies, and although Isaiah and Israel were enemies to Babylon, so horrific was the scene given to Isaiah in a vision, he was moved by the destruction of his enemies. This is all verifiable historical facts. Now with that background, let's read Isaiah chapter 21 from the Aramaic, and making a translation, the true account emerges. Isaiah 21, starting with verse 1. A message or words of doom is for Babylon. Tragedy is roaring upon you through the South Pass, the desert of the Negev. A terrible vision I see given to me. You have been the plunderer, so you will be plundered. Go up, Elamites and Media, for the cries of nations that Babylon imprisoned will end. My bowels burn with tenderness, pangs of terror have me, as the retchings of a woman in childbirth. I grow weak of hearing of what is to be. Horrified I am seeing of it. My heart aches. The nights of quiet have fled. Quivering I cannot sleep. Do not feast, but watch, people of Babylon. Don't drink and eat. Ready your weapons. Set a lookout on the tower, and report what is. Have the watchman sound the alarm when he sees chariots and horses and camels. The watchman called, I have watched at this tower all day and all night, and have remained here. Look, here comes the horsemen and the chariots. No, Our world is fallen. Babylon is broken to the ground. O sons of my threshing floor, for the God of Israel hath spoken. The message of the Edomites. He is calling to me from Mount Seir. Watchman, how long will be the night? The watchman responds, morning will come and night will follow. Come again and ask. The invasion is upon Arabia. Hide in the forests, O Arabia, O caravans of Dedanim. The people from the land of Tema brought water to those who were thirsty, and bread to those who were weary. These have fled from swords, from the bent bow, and from the horrors of war. And by the way, this is speaking of the war in 689 BC, long before the prophet Muhammad was born. For the Lord God said unto me, within a year the glory of Kedar shall come to an end. Only a remainder of archers, the brave of Kedar, shall be left. I, the God of Israel, have spoken. The video asserts that speaking of water and food being brought to him is the prophet Muhammad. Perhaps if the prophet lived during the Babylonian conquest of Assyria in 612 BC, that might be true. One can quickly see when a verse is taken out of context and twisted to fit the scriptwriter's wants, the scriptwriter fails miserably. The video also makes one more fatal deception. It states, otherwise, if that prophet was meant to be from the Jews, it would be among themselves rather than among their brothers. Please study the Greek and Aramaic. Quit making leaps of logic which are so far out of the ballpark they make no sense. As a matter of history, the prophet Muhammad did not have a male heir. Hence, the caliphs came into being. There was a lot of inner discord between the caliphs, and factions broke off immediately after the passing of the prophet. Hence we have the two main groups, the Shiites and the Sunnis, and they have been fighting each other since the 16th century. The Christians don't have any blood fights, even though they have a division in their groups. The Jews don't have blood fights, even though there is a division in their groups. The writer of this video has selectively pulled out and left out any reference to Isaac and his descendants. The Jews believe in Ishmael and Isaac. The Christians believe in Ishmael and Isaac. Ishmael was promised by the Lord to have 12 princes come through his descendants. Isaac was promised by the Lord that there would be 12 tribes come through his grandson, Jacob. Hence we have the 12 tribes of Israel that were put into bondage in Egypt and led by the prophet Moses, whom the followers in Islam revere. One cannot selectively pick out Ishmael and leave Isaac behind, or pick out Isaac and leave Ishmael behind. One cannot selectively pick out a phrase in a chapter of a prophet's writings. And that is exactly what the writer of these videos is doing. With all the blood feuds that the followers of the prophet Muhammad have been having, if I was to join the faith of Islam, that is not a good example for me. Allow me in the last remaining minutes to quote Old Testament prophets concerning the world's Messiah and see how Jesus Christ fits in. Isaiah 7:14. Therefore the Lord himself shall give you a sign. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. Micah 5:2. But thou, Bethlehem Ephratah, though thou be little among the thousands of Judah, yet out of thee shall come forth unto me that is to be ruler in Israel, whose going forth have been from of old, from everlasting. Jeremiah 23:5-6. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will rise unto David a righteous branch, and a king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth. In his days Judah shall be saved, and Israel shall dwell safely. And this is his name, whereby he shall be called, the Lord our righteousness. Psalms 22:1. My God, why hast thou forsaken me? Art thou so far from helping me, and from the words of my roaring? Psalms 22:16-18. For the dogs have encompassed me, the assembly of the wicked have enclosed me. They pierced my hands and my feet. I may tell all my bones. They look and stare upon me. They part my garments among them, and cast lots upon my vesture. Isaiah 53:3-5. He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. We hid, as it were, our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he hath borne our griefs, and carried our sorrows. Yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. Zechariah 13:6. And one shall say unto him, What are these wounds in thy hands? Then he shall answer, Those with which I was wounded in the house of my friends. For a closure, may I sincerely state, all creeds and religions that teach kindness and teach love to their fellow men are good. Love to one's neighbor is the eternal truth. May man's hearts be softened towards each other. May God in heaven bless the world with peace.